Hello again, guys. John chapter 5 today. John chapter 5. I hope you're enjoying these little videos. Hopefully you're getting something out of these things. Hopefully you're drawing closer to God and getting into a routine here of seeking Him on a daily basis. It's so important that we do that. John chapter 5 today. It's an awesome chapter again. Another opportunity for John to try and make his point that Jesus is God and that we should be following Him and trusting Him. John goes on this long talk in the last part of the chapter where he's trying to show us that there are multiple witnesses testifying about who Jesus is. Of course, there's John the Baptist who came and testified about Christ. He talks about how the signs, the very miracles that are doing are testifying about who He is and His witness. He talks about how the scriptures testify about who He is. So we've got all kinds of resources that can point to Christ and point to the truth of who He is. And we still have those today. We have people's experiences. We have the historical account of Christ and His interaction with us, of how God has intervened and worked in humanity. We've got stories, we've got testimonies, we still today have miracles and all these things that are pointing to the truth and the validity of Christ. And so Jesus is, he's answering the question the Pharisees have asked, who does this guy think he is? And Jesus is saying, this is who I know I am. I am who the Father has said that I am, and these are the things that I've come to accomplish, right? So, when we start to really try to develop our own faith and our own relationship with God, we'll probably have questions. We should have questions, maybe even have doubts. And I think as we have those things, we need to dig into those things, ask those questions, and search for the truth. And I know that we'll find it. And that's what Jesus is telling them, that He's not just some fly-by-night guy. He is the Son of God, and He has come to save the world. And He opens John chapter 5 with this awesome story about this interesting pool that had lots of history, right? So there was this pool near the entrance or the gates of this city where all the sick people would hang out. All the sick, all the withered, all the lame, all the sick people would go hang out there, because when the water started to move, whoever was the first one into the water, they said, would be healed. And as the story goes, that they said it was an angel of the Lord that would come down, would stir the water, and that the first person in would then be healed. Now there's question about the validity of that story and how accurate that story is, if it's really what was going on, or if it was just a tale or a fable, I guess, that was getting passed down, right? We have those. But anyway, the point of this story isn't so much the validity of that pool. The point is what happens in this story. And I love, first of all, how Jesus goes to where the people are sick. We avoid those kinds of places. We don't want to go through there. We don't want to walk right through the midst of where people are hurting and sick and withered. How often do we go hang out at the hospital, right? We don't go into the hospital just to go hang out and just to pass through. We don't do that. So, especially in this time, because there was all kinds of sacramental laws and rules about being around sick people, and it could hinder their ability to go into the temple and to worship and to offer sacrifices. So they would go out of their way to avoid sick people. But Jesus goes out of His way to be with sick people, and He does this all the time. He just did it. He went through Samaria, where nobody would go, and talk to a woman that nobody would normally talk to, and was a Samaritan on top of that. And now He's going right to where the sick people are. And He sees a guy who's been there for 38 years, and He says to this man, "Do you wish to get well?" And the man's response is not, "Yes, I want to get well." It's a hopeless response of, "I don't have anybody to put me in the water, and everybody always beats me." He's been laying there a long time. Nobody would help him in the water. This man is hopeless. And he feels like there's no answer to the question of whether or not he wants to get well. He has nobody to put him in the water. And there's all kinds of, I question some of his theology, I guess. God doesn't work on a first come, first served basis, does He? God has come to serve us all, and Jesus taught that the last shall be first and the first shall be last. So I question some of his theology, but he's hopeless. He's hopeless. But Jesus says, pick up your pallet and walk. In those hopeless moments, Jesus comes and finds us to give us hope. I love that picture of Christ. Trust today in who Christ is. Trust today in who he has said he is. We've got all kinds of testimony, experiences, and witnesses around us that can testify to that have experienced him for themselves. And so if we're in these moments of hopelessness, if we're in these moments where we are feeling sick and weary, and we feel like nobody's there to help us, that's the exact place that Jesus is going to show up to find us, to give us the hope that we need. He's going to be there to tell us, pick up your pallet and walk. Be healed. So let's hope and trust in Christ today, because he really is who he said he is, and he really is there to transform our lives. Well, God bless you all. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow for John chapter 6.